What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Best Foot Forward podcast. It's me, Vic, here from CESTLAVIC. I am a sneaker artist based out of San Francisco, and I am so lucky to be able to host this podcast with one of the most amazing, talented sneaker artists in the Bay Area as well. We have here...
Oh my gosh, what an intro, first of all. I'm Ann Duskus of STUDIODUSKUS. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh my gosh.
It's been, can you tell it feels like it's been a while since I've done this? That was not rehearsed. That was just like...
She was like, give me a second. Let me regroup real quick.
Yeah.
And usually it's like quick and to the point. It's like, I'm CESTLAVIC, I'm Ann. And she's like giving me this like elaborate like...
It's like throwback to like some of our first episodes where we were like, we're based out of here. We do this, we do that. And I just felt like we needed a little,
Thanks,
reintroduction.
Babe. Thanks, babe. Okay, we are on our episode 19.
That's crazy. 19. Yeah.
I mean, is it crazy or is it not?
In the grand scheme of things, we've been listening to another podcast that we really love. And they're like on episode what? Like 100 or like upper
89
double digits, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So that's intimidating. Just having almost 20 but not quite is like we're just babies, little podcast babies.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about us hitting the 20th episode mark because I don't know. It feels like a milestone to me, even though it's like, oh yeah, okay, 20, big deal.
Yeah.
But remember, like when we were at like episode 6 or 7, we're like, how the heck are we going to get to 20?
Yeah.
That seems like a long road ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it was funny. We were at like 6 and we had already thrown out three other ones.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, we tossed out so many at the beginning.
We did.
I think we're well on our way. I'm proud.
I mean, who knows if we're on our way, but we're on the way. Okay? We're on the way. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, episode 19, maybe we can finally talk about all the stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff meaning hardware, software, gear, tech, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That we use to create content.
Can I tell you this?
Yes.
From the birth of CESTLAVIC on social media, I think I was like very focused on like what tech I need and all that stuff. And I've been waiting for the day, and I feel like because Ann's like totally like just embracing this whole content creation thing, I feel like you can now share with us, and I am so like excited for you to share all the tech and hardware, software, whatever we want to call it, gear that you use to create content. That is like, we're polar opposites in this aspect, right?
Huge.
And I didn't know when in time we would be able to have this episode, but it came sooner than I thought.
Did it really come sooner than you thought?
Yeah.
Okay. Officially, you guys, it was the last week that I officially accepted the fact that I am now a content creator. Which, like, it's so weird even just saying that out loud because, like, I'm kind of cringy about it. Yeah. But I'm like, no, like, you're saying, like, you have to embrace it because this is just the nature of what we do and that's part of our job. But it's so strange.
How do you feel?
I mean, honestly, like, I'm having a good time. And then I was talking to a good friend of mine this morning just about, like, how to run a business and just being a business owner. And how I've just been taking a lot of time recently, just like, okay, kind of refocusing myself as far as what do I need to do to, I mean, this sounds like really weird just even saying it, to get more eyeballs looking at what I'm doing.
Yes.
Because if I were to hear someone else say that, I'm like, yeah, okay, you just want new followers. And you just, like, I'm just like, whatever, know? It's like, you just want attention.
Yeah, like attention, so like, WHORE, right?
Right,
yeah.
And it's like, for me to say that out loud, it's like, oh, what does that make you, Ann, But I think if I dial it back and I really get down to the basics of, like, how did I even get here today? And I think it's really because of, again, going back to, like, I don't know what episode it was when we talked about kind of like our origin story on how we ended up working side by side in a studio space operating like a sneaker business.
Right.
And so if I dial it back and sort of like think about that path that I took, it really was because during the pandemic, I was at home and I was just creating and having a good time creating with my hands and sharing that with whoever cares about it or cared about it. And again, you know, at the time, like, I didn't have the pressure. I didn't feel the pressure of like, oh my gosh, there are all these expectations of me because I have these followers who wants to see certain type of content.
Yeah.
But it was really like, you know what, like, I'm just going to share whatever I make. If they like it, great. If not, whatever, you know? And so I think, yeah, so I don't know what the point I was trying to make, but it was just like, okay, like, yes, I'm a content creator, but, you know, I feel like so much has happened and so much has evolved as far as like how I create my content, what I used to create my content. And I think I finally have arrived at a place last week where like, okay, I think this is what I am and it's okay. Like no one is going to judge you for it.
Right.
Except for yourself.
And I was going to say, it's so interesting how you're like, you know, back in quarantine days, you had no pressure to share. What has changed? The number of followers or, you know, like almost like I feel like that shouldn't change, right? Because our heart is still in the same places. We just want to create things and share it with the world. We want to do fun things and then be able to interact with the community and say like, here, look at what I did. I like what you did, you know, and like be inspired and so on and so forth. So I feel like that pressure, it's so funny that you said that, like things have kind of changed or like you feel like you need to present yourself in this way, but have you changed that? Like your heart hasn't changed. It's not in a different place, right?
I feel like it's a constant checking myself. That's what I've been doing. And I think in the beginning when I felt less pressure is when like I knew everyone who was following me were my friends. Like I knew almost all of them.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure. I'm just sharing with my friends. And then now it's like I don't know half of the people, more than half the people who are following me, which is again is a blessing. I was like, this many people care about what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
But then at the same time, for a very brief moment in time where I was like, crap, like these people are expecting a certain type of content. And I would go like weeks without posting anything because it's like, I don't know if I should post this. Is this good enough to post? Like, I would have all of this self-talk that basically talks myself out of like posting something I probably would have posted when my followers were just my friends.
Yeah.
But then I didn't feel like it was dynamic enough or like cool enough, you know, to post for these people. And so I think, but then the now me, it's like all bets are off. I mean, as you can probably see, Vicky, like in my content, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to adjust. I don't need to color correct everything so like it lines up with the rest of my grid, you know, so it flows beautifully and everything is planned. And it's like, right now I'm kind of in this phase where I'm like, first of all, I think I'm going through an identity crisis, like for my social media personality. And second of all, I'm just like, no, I just want to post what I think is fun. And I'm going to take that pressure off of myself. If they like it, great. If not, fine. Yeah. Like it's okay too.
Yeah. This is so interesting because I feel like, okay, for one, I love Ann and like the way that you present yourself online. Oh my God. Go back to that episode we were talking about like online persona, you know? And I feel like it's almost a little more relevant now because then you're like, okay, I'm so much more, you know, present. And I think you're right in your Instagram feed. It's a little bit more organic almost, a little bit more chaotic. Yeah. But it's like, it's like a new revived energy that you're putting into your content.
It's like definitely very raw.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I kind of like that because I feel like, yes, I see myself as this like, I mean, that's what I like to see myself. And hopefully like other people sees me as such as well. But I like to think about myself as an artist that's slightly more refined. Yeah. And I think that's exactly why I feel like I'm kind of going through an identity crisis right now because I feel like maybe some of the social media content that I'm putting out isn't as refined as how I would like to be perceived. Yeah. And I think that's sort of like a hump that I needed to work through with myself. Yes. And sort of like allowing myself to accept the fact that it's okay if that's inconsistent. Because this is what works for me now, and it's better than to just like keep trying different things until you figure out what works versus not doing anything at all because I would never really understand how and what works if I didn't kind of try
Exactly.
and explore, you know?
It's like almost like it's not quite on brand, but the way that you've approached it, you're attaching the human to the brand, you know, and that's almost more genuine. It's more authentically you, and I'm so glad that you're doing it. Just experimental, like something's gonna come out of it. You might realize that like this is what I'm made to do, or a new direction for what it is, or like no, I don't like it. I'm gonna go back to like what I was doing before. Whatever it is, it's just we're exploring and we're experimenting.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Like there's a human like factor like with my social content that I like so I think like you know this but our listeners don't. Like you've been listening to me about like how I've done like a social media deep dive and you know.
Yes.
And I feel like everything that I'm seeing, you know, and I mean accounts who are successful, you know, and where everything is trending in our social media like market, whatever you want to call it right now, is that human aspect of it.
Right.
Like I keep and I sort of agree with it, and I think it really depends on like, you know, the brand, you know, and who it is. Because like you and I can see somebody like posting on social media and we're like, oh my god, this person is so fake, you know. You know, like it's not authentic.
True. Yeah.
And I don't know what kind of vibe I'm giving off, but I'm trying to be as authentic as I can be. And I really like, and I find that like, and you know me, like I don't have the bandwidth or like the patience like internally to even sit through like a TV show.
Yeah.
Like I don't watch TV.
Ann doesn't watch TV. She doesn't watch YouTube. She doesn't consume like long media.
Right. And so, but when I do, I notice like the videos like on social media, whether or not it's like I get slapped with something on YouTube or I get slapped something on like Reels on IG. Like videos that I always gravitate towards where I'll like stay a hot sec to like see what this is about are like kind of like the raw style type of, you know, footage, you know? And like, I'm like, okay, then what is this telling me about, you know, the type of content that I like to consume, even if it means it may not necessarily equate to what my followers like to consume, but like I like to think that like it's teaching me something, you know, as a content creator when those things like those type of videos stops me in my track, you know?
You're creating something that you would want to watch. Well, I mean, that's amazing. And like, I think here's the thing: we like are halfway into the episode and we haven't even start talking about.
We're gonna have
tech.
to have about two parts.
This is how it goes. But like, so tell me, what is your approach in how you're creating content now? Like, what kind of gear or tools you're using?
Should we dial it back to like the beginning of the pandemic?
Yes.
What we're using and how we're creating content.
Yep.
To now.
Yes.
Because I think I mean, I feel like mine haven't changed that much, but I wonder if yours have. But I feel like maybe not. Maybe just upgraded a little bit.
Well, okay. So tell me what.
No, I've been taking up so much airtime. You go.
Okay. So you're asking me that question.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. I am through and through an Android's, Windows like girl. You know.
Yep.
It pained me so much, and I told you that when I got an iPhone. Okay.
Yo.
I only recently got an iPhone.
Literally for months. Like after I met Vicky, I almost like cannot be friends with her because I realized you use an Android and not an iPhone. I was like, what? You have a green bubble in your text?
She
what
never
the heck
told
is that?
me, but I'm pretty sure she judged me so hard.
I judged you so hard.
Yeah, it's like, you're not one of my people. Okay.
But okay, I'm like, you know what? You know, be open-minded, you know? But yes, that's where like right away, like where are differences? Okay.
Extremely different.
Yes.
And so when I started this back in 2020, I was using a Samsung Galaxy S10. So I'm an Android girl. I mean, I still edit on a desktop. I use Microsoft laptops and like to edit all of my stuff. So the only thing that's really changed has been my iPhone. So I'm using the iPhone 13 Pro Max right now. And it is great. I think there are pros and cons of both systems, right? Neither of them are actually perfect. So I haven't converted to Apple and then I'm like, I got to change everything. So I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy. So the reason why I sort of made this switch is because everything was fine. I was able to record content, take pictures using my phone, post stories, all of that stuff. Except every time that you're interacting with an app that uses your camera, it screws up. So if I'm going on lives, for example, you just see pixels. So I used to, when I first went on live, I would go on live and paint with people, you know, and I would like stay on for maybe like an hour just painting. And the comments, it was hilarious. I don't know why I did this and I don't know how long I did this for, but they would be like, we can't really make out what you're painting.
Wait, that bad on the other end?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, especially if I tried to go live with someone else. You know, when they were like, Instagram's going through that thing where they're allowing you to go live with like more than one person. It would just get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, they compress all the quality. It's terrible.
Yeah. So the thing is, like I found out that a lot of these social media apps are optimized for use with iPhone, but they're not optimized for all the Android devices that are out there, right? So that's the reason why I made my switch.
Yeah.
And, everything else. I mean, I have upgraded. Now that you're making me think about it, from when I started to now, I wouldn't say, I feel like I keep adding little things to it, but I wouldn't say it was that different. Because I always started out with a mirrorless camera, right? Like I, from the get-go, was like, I want high quality photos. That's like, for me, that was a personal preference. Like I want high quality photos because I know that like the nature of my work is I will customize something and I'll send it off. I will never have that shoe in my hand anymore because it's given to a client.
Can we be specific just to help our listeners out? Like how high quality is high quality in your eyes? Like pixel-wise or like whatever that means.
Right. I mean, how high quality is high quality? I just like to, and I don't want to like give you numbers, but I like to be able to like put it on the computer screen and it not be blurry.
Yeah.
Blow it up in a photo and for it not to be blurry. And I find that with any phone, even with my iPhone nowadays, once I put it onto a bigger screen, it will be pixelated. And that's just what I don't like. And so, I mean, that's what I started with. What did you start with?
Always my iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay, granted. Okay, wait. When during the pandemic, I was using a iPhone. Okay, you ready for this? I was using a freaking iPhone 7 Plus, you guys.
That was at the beginning of the pandemic? Sorry, I just took a sip of water. Yeah.
Like so I used to be that girl that where I'll get a new phone every 2 years. I was never someone that will get a new phone every year. So but for some reason, I was using that phone. I think that was my 3rd year into using an iPhone 7 Plus.
So then did you upgrade once you started creating content?
Nope.
What was the...
Guys, okay, I feel like if you've been following me for a while, like at some point in time, I've shared this with my followers, but I think I'll officially share it like here again.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I officially started my business shortly after the pandemic started. So I would say I launched my website, I think it was like October of 2020. October or November 2020. However, everything you see on my website, actually not now. I think everything on my website now has been with the new iPhone. But because I did like a whole like relaunch of my website, I think earlier this year. So, but for a whole like a year and a half, all the content that you saw on my website were taken with the camera on my iPhone 7 Plus.
Right.
Every piece of content, I did not use an SLR camera, like not even one photo.
Right.
And so And then also, I didn't even use Photoshop. I didn't like... okay, literally, like Vicky had to get up because this is her camera, and for some reason, the camera that was catching our YouTube footage for this podcast went out.
Technical difficulties. Like
Yes, this is what we do.
If this is not the most inappropriate or appropriate interruption, I don't know what is.
Okay.
Where were we?
Okay, no, I was just talking about how all the content that you saw on my website, and was living on my website for a year and a half, were all captured with my iPhone.
Right.
And I didn't export it out of my iPhone to edit in like a Photoshop or like a photo editing software. I didn't do any corrections like on a laptop or anything.
Right.
I did all the color corrections in my iPhone using different apps.
Yeah.
So it was like super scrappy, super low budget, super like make it work designers like type of like mentality.
Yeah. Which is amazing, and I just want to say here, like, for the record, I think it's possible for you to run. I mean, you do it obviously, and you do it so gracefully, but other people also run their entire businesses on social media just using their iPhone. That is definitely possible, and you know, like, you do it so well. I feel like there's a way for you to present things that look very nice, and of course, like, on your website, that would be on your computer, and I don't think I ever went on your website and was like, oh, this is blurry. You know, I never had that impression. So it works. You can do all of this stuff on your phone. And I think the easy thing for you, which I'm a little bit envious about, is like, it's so easy to go from your phone to your MacBook and like back and forth. And you're just like, I can send you things on there. You get it on your MacBook, you can edit, and you can do it on your phone. And that part of it definitely is very easy. I'm not converting. I'm not buying a MacBook.
I'm not trying to convince you, but
don't look at me like that.
It's like, it seriously makes my life so easy. So like, I am a whole like heartedly, I've been using the Apple, like the entire ecosystem for as long as I can remember. I've always used Apple products. And yeah, and then my husband has always used like Apple products. So it's always so easy for us to share, and you know, like, and even like, you know, iCloud, you know, like we can buy an app and we can share that with our family, you know? So like all that, like, it's just very convenient, and just all the AirDrop things. I mean, it just makes life so easy in that regard. Yeah, I can't imagine having to switch between two systems. That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, and I was telling you that I had some issues transferring. So I would take pictures with my iPhone, and then so I've realized that when HDR is on and I transfer it into my computer, all the colors just go wonky. And so it's like, it looks like I filmed back in like the 1920s, you know, the color's like all muted. It's all like...
Oh, it's interesting that happens to you, because when I export it into my laptop, the HDR is on. So I have to make this adjustment because everything just looks super overexposed.
Right. Yes. So there's something funky going on, you know?
It's cool. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I realized that I didn't tell you what my like camera setup is, right? So I have my phone. I now switch, and I'm using an iPhone, and the way iPhone
13
Pro Max, right?
Got it. Okay.
And it's funny, I have all this stuff written down, and I don't even remember. So the way that I have grown into creating content is I like, and this is totally a luxury, but I like having a top-down camera that is permanently in place all the time. And that camera that I have on right now, it is the Sony, I'm going to make sure I'm saying this right, it's the Sony A6400. And that's the one that's on top. That's the one that I used to use to take all of my pictures. And granted, I'm going to tell you this, like, this is in no way flexing or saying like that you need any of this stuff, but I have a partner who is very much like a tech enthusiast, and so I have the luxury of having resources where it's like he will go and research and purchase some of the, you know, best cameras to use, like best lenses, mics, whatever it is. And so I've got, and I'm going to tell you, this is like awful, but essentially my first year of doing social media and working with brands and everything, I have invested $15,000 worth of camera equipment.
That sounds
And that's
about right.
broken down into, 2 mirrorless cameras, my mics, my like lights, my tripod stands, all of that stuff. And that's like on the low end of the estimate, And by no means do you need all of this. But I think the one thing that I'm always striving to get better at is like just producing quality content. And part of my ideal quality is having really crisp pictures. And I still stand by the fact that if I'm creating videos with just my iPhone, the crispness of those videos are not as good as with a mirrorless camera. That is like hands down has not changed for me.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
like, right?
Yeah,
and I secretly, there's a lot of pain that goes behind creating stuff with a camera and not your phone, but that's my choice. Like I'm here for it. I'm here for the allergic to easy, mentality.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that's amazing. But okay, when you were talking about your mirrorless cameras, are you the body and the lens are still separate though, right? So
Yes, yes.
So it's not just the body of the camera, it's the lens that
Right.
you purchase
You can-
specifically for what you're doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on my top, so let me paint you guys a picture. I realized that last time we sort of did like a studio breakdown, we didn't really have like a discussion of the fact that our studios look, our sides of the studio look kind of different.
Oh, so different.
And like,
Yes.
if you ever have the pleasure of visiting our studio, it sounds so pretentious, but you'll see like it's very different. And
Yeah.
I've got, like 2 photography poles that are fastened on either side of my desk. They look like essentially stripper poles, right?
Yeah, they basically it's like tension rods that
They're
reaches
tension- right.
basically from floor to ceiling.
Yes.
And these are like what, 10-foot ceilings, 11-foot
Yes.
ceilings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
like-
they're tall.
Yeah, and they're a permanent structure in here and then there's a crossbar where my camera's attached to. And the camera that I have, is the Sony A6400. And then attached to it, I have a zoom lens. So I'm able to like zoom in and out if I want, like a really far field of view of my desk and get everything in it. I can. If I want to do a close-up, I can. And everything's just set so that most days when I come in, plug in an SD card, turn on the camera, turn on my lights, my video lights, and I'm ready to go. And even in
Love
the
that.
dark, right, I realize that sometimes we work really late into the dark. The video lights have been really beneficial because we have a skylight in our studio and the lighting changes quite a bit throughout the day. So if I'm doing time lapses, if I'm doing anything like that, then having the video lights just keeps the lighting more consistent.
For sure. And then, so do you have, are you dependent on the audio of your camera or do you have an additional, like a separate audio source?
We were talking about mics,
Yeah.
things like that. So on my top down, I actually don't record audio.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, unless I do have like a shotgun mic. So that's like a directional mic that you can point to. And then if I wanted to capture any sounds of me working,
Okay.
then I could plug that in. Or if I wanted to talk while I was working, then I would do that. But most days, like especially recently, if I'm being really realistic with you, I don't record any sounds. I just get the time lapse of it. Yeah. And so, and that reminds me of a thing, which is like lighting. For
Yeah.
Anne, when you take photos, what kind of lighting do you use?
I don't use any lighting. I use natural lighting.
Natural lighting.
To this very day. Okay, so I know. So when I was still working out of my home studio, there was always like this specific window of time that I can take my pictures, and it's in the afternoon when this light is coming through this specific window through my house.
Is it like golden hour or like?
It's not quite golden
Okay,
hour. It's like
okay.
before golden hour. It's like middle of the afternoon where like this light just comes through this particular window, and it's like the perfect natural lighting. But it's directional, right?
Right.
So like I have to like shift myself around.
It's very like stylistic too. It's like very like moody because it's like a slanted light,
It is, but
Cast
then it's
the
like
shadows and everything.
But then I usually try to capture it when there's like not a ton of shadows.
Okay, so it's okay. I get it. So it's like more diffused,
Yeah.
light, like a light, like when the light window becomes a light box.
Yeah,
for you.
a little
Okay,
bit. Yeah.
okay.
And then, but then again, it's still directional. So if you're a photographer, you'll know like, okay, the light source is coming from the right. You
Right.
know? Yeah. And so, so I've always used, so like I would shoot like a product like within that window and then of time, and I'll set up like basically two like foam core in white, and then like
We love
90
foam core.
degrees. Oh, all day. Like
Yeah.
we can do so many things with it.
Yeah.
And then but it's not even like a seamless because there is a seam, you
Right.
know? And so I would literally like in my like phone editing photo app, like go
Just
edit
Photoshop
out the
that out.
like line out, you know, to make it look like a seamless, which is
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
But again, it worked. And so, yeah, so that's like what I did. And even to this day, like I have like these like overhead lights like on
Yeah.
my desk. And really I only got them because the lighting that comes with our studio is almost non-existent.
Yes.
Like
At nighttime.
Yeah, so when it gets dark, like I literally cannot continue working because the lighting is not beefy enough.
Right.
And so I only got these like overhead lights, you know, for my desk for the purpose of working.
Right.
I've never really used them for photography. I mean, I think there maybe was like once or twice it was like, oh, let me point this over here. But then I almost didn't really like it because
Right.
I was so used to sort of this like natural lighting type of feel that I was like, oh, this light is too sharp.
Yeah.
You know? And so, yeah. And so to this very day, I still really shoot my products in natural light only,
And
exclusively.
It just goes to show it's like we have completely different styles of how we take our final product picks and
Yeah.
like all of that stuff, which is so cool.
Wait, so when you take you talked about your top-down view earlier.
Yeah.
Like when you do your final product, like what's usually involved gear-wise besides your camera?
It really depends on what. So like a fun aspect of taking pictures for me has always been to like vary the way that I take pictures. So I know like for you, for example, there's a lot of like, you know, like very simple backgrounds, right? And like showcasing the shoes. Sometimes like I will do that. Sometimes it will be like a white background, solid color, black background, whatever. But then a lot of times it's like outdoors as well. So when I'm outdoors, a lot of it relies on like sunlight, natural sunlight. And because I love experimenting with cameras and settings and all of that stuff, I also have like a diffuser. So when we go out there, you know, an additional sort of auxiliary piece of equipment that we have is like diffuser to either reflect the light, or sometimes the sunlight's like too bright and just to diffuse it and all of that stuff. Very extra, as you can tell.
I mean, it's not extra though because it's like that's how you create. It's those are the tools that you need to
Right.
create the content that you want to create.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's extra, you know, because I mean, I could still be extra with my basic things. Like I use 9 different apps,
Right.
You know,
Okay.
like how
Yes,
extra
exactly.
is extra.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think it's an extra thing. I think it's just like that's your style of like this is what I need.
Yeah. And I love that you said that because I feel like this is a form of expression for me as well, right?
Right,
The way that I
creatively.
use,
Yeah.
creatively, the way that I use my tech, the way that I want to present my final products, the way I want to film videos and edit them, etc., etc. So definitely,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, let's talk about these 9 different apps that you're using.
Yes.
What is the situation here?
Okay, so
Why
here's
do you
the deal.
need
Okay,
9
so-
different apps in?
Yes, you need 9 different apps. Okay. Although I'm only gonna talk about 5 today because we're like, oh, I don't need to talk about 9 different apps.
Yeah.
I got really excited.
Yeah.
For a second.
We're like,
Okay,
oh,
for a
there's
second.
9
Okay.
different apps. You heard it here first. She's like spilling the secrets.
I have
on
like more than 9 actually,
Yeah.
but then these are like the main ones that I actually use. Okay, so again, like I produce my content mostly exclusively from my iPhone. So I use an iPhone 12 Pro Max.
Yeah.
I'm like low-key jealous when you got the 13 Pro Max because it has the macro function, which I think is so useful as far as me, like a person who exclusively only create contents from my phone.
Yeah.
Like you have the option of like switching out your lens,
Yeah.
you know, on your body
Yeah.
to like a macro lens. I don't.
Girl,
you know?
I don't even use that feature.
Girl,
so it's
taking
like
it for
we just need to switch.
granted.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. We just need to
I'm
switch.
gonna upgrade to my iPhone 14 when it comes out.
Yeah.
But which is supposedly gonna have an
Your
amazing
2
camera.
years is coming up. girl.
I know. it
Time
is.
for an
So I'm
upgrade.
like, oh, so close. Okay. But anyways, and so I use a MacBook Pro. If I needed to, I would, AirDrop between my devices. Again, like a whole Apple ecosystem. I do have an iPad, and I don't do any editing on my iPad. The only time I use my iPad for anything work related is one, maybe I'll look at some emails, or I'll use Procreate like on the iPad,
Right.
which is like so great for like sketching up ideas. But again, also, if you have been following me for a while, you know I don't like to sketch anymore, and I just create.
Yeah.
So I think the only time I actually go and use Procreate on my iPad is when I'm doing client work. I would switch between either that or, I mean, God, so many different things now that I think about it, Vicky. Like, I would do some kind of like my rough sketches, like in a sketchbook with a pencil, because like I like the analog feel of it.
Yeah.
And then I would take a picture of it, drop it into my iPad, and then kind of refine it. And then after that, I would drop that sketch. I mean, it just sounds like so redundant, but like, trust me, it's an organized chaos. And then after that, I would drop that into my laptop to then where I would use a Wacom Cintiq Pro tablet, which is also essentially, it's another form of iPad, but it's not an iPad, but it's also like the mouse is a pencil, it's like a pen. And then I would do like rendering, like in Photoshop and Illustrator, like on that.
Right.
So
more intensive stuff is done on.
Yeah,
right,
it's a whole thing. Yeah, because I can't really use like Photoshop to its full extent on my iPad, so I have to get it onto my laptop.
Right.
So there's a whole thing. Anyways, but as far as like, you know, content creation for social media, yeah, I use my iPhone.
Okay.
That's it.
And what kind of apps? Okay, let's say
Okay.
you've filmed your video, or
Let's start with the
taking
photos
your-
first.
taking
Okay.
your pictures.
Yeah.
Taking your pictures. Okay.
So I take all the pictures in the video on my iPhone. And so for photo editing apps, so I'll do all of my color corrections. Would I say all? Yeah, I would say all of my photo color corrections in the VSCO app,
okay.
VSCO. Gosh, I don't even know how much it costs now. I really meant to pull it up. But it's a monthly subscription. I usually pay for the annual because I know I use it all the time. It's a great app. The interface is great. The app, like all the function itself is great. It has like a crap ton. I don't use the free version. I use the paid version. So it has a crap ton of filters or presets. Presets just sound so much better than filters because filters feels like you're cheating, even though presets are too. But presets are like photographers. But then like I have access to like hundreds of different presets, but like I only use like one. Like I have like a favorite library, and maybe there's like 3 that I switch between. And so, and that's what helps me for the majority of the time. My photos and videos look a little bit more consistent because they all sort of have the same color shade.
Keeps
you know,
up with branding.
Yeah. Although like a lot of my raw stuff these days, I don't even go and edit that. It's just like it is what it is. Put a little Paris on there, like swipe right on Instagram. That's it. You know.
This is ridiculous. Second time, technical difficulties, but we're gonna get right back into it. And I think I remember you were talking about what you use in your apps, and I cannot believe you are a VSCO girl.
I am a VSCO girl.
You judge me for having an Android phone. You are totally a VSCO girl, and I love it.
Wait, is there something to be judged for being a VSCO girl?
No, there's like a look. Do you know what the VSCO girl look is?
But then like I don't. But you know, like Vicky, you see my photos.
Yeah. No, it's
and I'm not super like moody, very filter on top of filter thing, you know?
That's what I'm saying. You do it tastefully. And I think like that is the key. If you're using filters or whatever, like
presets.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right. I should use photography. Okay, and here's the thing.
Okay, Miss Lightroom.
Judgy Vicky here is going to be like, I don't actually use filters. You know, I always like when I'm posting, I'm like, okay, this doesn't look quite right. The color doesn't look quite right. I could just swipe and like, again, put Paris on it or put like, you know, Tokyo, whatever. Whatever the things are. I don't even know what they are because I don't use them because they don't, you know, generally I like to do my color correction in like Lightroom or Photoshop and so on and so forth. But anyways, back to you. Yes, you'll use VSCO, and then isn't that it?
No, that's not it. So we're talking strictly photo editing.
Strictly photo. 9 apps for strictly photo.
Okay,
Is that what
no,
you're
no,
saying?
no. It's a
Okay.
combination of video, and
okay,
photo. But
okay.
I'm just talking about photos
Right,
right now.
okay.
So for photos, I use VSCO. And on top of that, I use this app called Retouch.
Mm-hmm.
And Retouch literally is just an app for you to remove objects you don't want in your photos.
Okay. Okay.
So I use that as like my eraser of like, okay, if I have a seamless that's not super clean, I'll go touch up like the little marks, the black marks on the
Right.
paper. Or if there's a wrinkle in the paper, I'll go touch that up. Or if there's a line I don't want, I'll go touch that up.
Right.
But very rarely am I using it to touch up imperfections on my shoes.
Right.
Because I think that's what makes my shoes cool.
You're not like slimming down your shoes and giving them like boobs and butt, right? Not with
yes,
not with
make
that.
this
Yeah,
little curve
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
So Retouch really is just an app. It's called Retouch. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to look it up, it's really easy and it's so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so so like once I finish touching up, like using like color correct in VSCO, and again like sometimes I'll use the preset I like, but then I would still go in and like I still do all the things you would do in Lightroom, like in the VSCO app. Like I'll go look at the exposure. I'll go adjust the contrast. I'll go adjust the hues and the saturations, the skin
Right.
tones. I'll do all of those things until I can get a color that I like, along with the preset that I already applied to it.
Right.
So it's not just like preset done.
Yeah.
No, it's like I still have to go make all the adjustments.
I totally like that the app has that function where it's not just presets, you know, and then you don't have the option to go in and do
Yeah.
fine tuning.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what, you know, makes it look a little bit better is when you can fine tune.
Yeah, and it's super, again, I love, and I don't know whether or not it's because I've grown to use VSCO, so I like the interface and the UI. It's just, again, it feels very seamless and intuitive to me.
Right.
So I think ease of use is a big thing for me. And again, I don't know whether or not it's because it was built for an iPhone.
I think it is.
Yeah,
All of these
so-
apps, like the rule of thumb is really when it interacts with the camera, anything that's like coming with the camera, these apps are going to be optimized for iPhone
Yeah.
and not for other systems. So.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think, I mean, I'm starting to see there's a reason why I use certain apps because of the device that I'm using.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and so I basically use those two pretty much most often.
Right.
When I edit my photos, my still shots. What about you?
I do very similar adjustments to my pictures, but typically I'll use the Adobe suite, and I mean like Lightroom and Photoshop. So import all of my photos from the mirrorless camera into Lightroom, pick out the ones that I want. Lightroom, you can do all these adjustments. You can adjust for exposure, you can adjust for a lot of times like white balance, which is an important one for me, and it's super easy to do on Lightroom so that you get accurate colors. That for me is like a difficulty on my phone. It's like you kind of have to toggle and do very, very fine adjustments to get the color right, because sometimes white is not white, it's like blue, or white is like a little bit more yellow, you know. So it's like really easy for me to correct for white balance in that app. And then the retouch function that you use, I use something similar in Photoshop, which is it's like a Band-Aid little tool.
Yeah, it's a stamp. Yeah.
It's like a stamping tool kind of thing.
Cloning
So
tool.
yeah, the cloning tool that gets rid of any imperfections. And again, it's not like I can't really touch up the artwork on the shoe. It's really just if you're shooting, for example, on a white background, but you have a speck of dust, or you have, you know, maybe like the white backgrounds, the seamless is not going to be entirely perfect. It's not going to be pristine. There's like some black marks or whatever. Adjust for lighting and all of that stuff. And honestly, a really fun part of taking pictures is the post-production work of it. You can completely transform a photo, you know, and that's like the crazy part of it. Some of them, when you look at the before photo, it just looks like it's on a dirty floor. But then when you actually go to edit it, you can put it on a different background. You can make it look like, you know, like the brightest, cleanest floor you've ever seen, and you know, all of that stuff. So I would say, yeah, those are the two apps that I use.
Okay, let me ask you something real quick. So I exclusively use like the Apple ecosystem. Since you switch between like your iPhone and your PC, you use a PC, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. When you import your, say, like, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter with your SLR cameras, but like, have you ever tried to import your photos that you took from your iPhone to your PC and noticeably, like, there was a difference in the color?
Yes. So I think it's just like there's a function for you to change it so that it doesn't change colors. But truth is, I have not posted a photo from my phone on my feed. I am like that kind of like, as picky as we are with what goes on our Instagram feed, that's me. I haven't posted a single photo that is just taken from my phone. And even I might have used it in the reel, but my final product shots honestly are always taken with a camera.
But you've done it in like for your reels though. Like you'll use actually reels are videos.
Video.
So we're just talking about photos right now. Like
so like if
photos.
it's photos, it'll always be like in my stories. It's almost like, you know, my standard for posting in my grid is like all the camera, like all the like higher quality stuff and anything that's on my phone. If I posted my stories, I don't really care how good the quality of the picture is.
Okay, so we're almost out of time for this episode, but can we talk real quick about importing to social media, like me versus you, just strictly photos? Yeah. Because I wonder if there's a difference between the speed and problems or glitches that you might get. So, for example, like for me, when I post photos from the photos that I took with my camera on my phone, I typically don't have any issues because again, nothing is really leaving my phone.
Right. You just do everything. I mean, like you don't have to transfer anything anywhere. There's no like travel time between when you take the photo and then when you're editing it and when you're posting it. So that there's no like disconnect there.
There's no disconnect there. And also, let's talk about this because I know you do this and I do not. I do not ever post anything from my laptop to Instagram. Yeah. I post everything from my phone. So I take photos from my phone, I edit the photos on my phone, and then I post from my phone. Yeah. Like it does not leave my phone. Right. And can we talk about your process and maybe if there are any pain points?
Yeah. Totally. So the one thing I think that you're remembering now is that when I first started on Instagram, and of course, like I've kind of redelegated my time a little bit differently. So now I'm trying to do more video content on like YouTube, for example. But when I first started, it was like fully like all guns blazing, we're doing Instagram. And at that point, I was creating content and I would have a backlog I would be able to schedule. So there's like an app. Right now, you can do it on the like Meta, like Facebook.
Like it's Creator Studio or something.
Yeah. And you can schedule content ahead of time. I used to use an app called Insist that would allow me to upload content, write out all the captions, and schedule it for a specific day to post. And
is it a paid app?
It used to be free when I used it, and then it started being paid, and then because Facebook had it, then I stopped, so I was paying for it, and then I stopped paying for it. So there was always that. Nowadays, I don't have the luxury of having a backlog, right? Like I don't create content so far in advance that I can actually schedule it. So I'm really just posting in real time nowadays. And what was your question? Oh yeah. So when it comes to taking pictures, it's a whole process, and it does take longer. I will have to admit, there's a lot more issues with, for example, having to put an SD card into your camera. You take the pictures, take the SD card, and either I will put it into my. I use a Surface Book. Either I'll put it into my laptop, my Surface Book, or I'll take it home and put it into my desktop, and then I'll sit down, do all the edits, all of that stuff. And realistically right now, or like honestly, I keep saying realistically. Honestly right now, what I do is I will go from my computer back onto my phone and then post. And that is because on your phone, there's a toggle for iPhones that you can switch on and off, which is like high quality uploads. Yeah. And so it ensures that I have the best quality. Sometimes if you do it directly from your computer, things go wrong and it goes blurry. You have the most high definition like photo that you actually uploaded,
frustrating.
but then when it actually posts, it's like all blurry, and you're like, I didn't put all that work in for nothing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you better not be showing me this. That's
Yeah.
not okay. So a lot of times, really, that is the true sort of process when I'm posting photos.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
Because
Because there's a lot of back and forth. And
Totally.
and then anytime, and I'm sure you and I both have had this happen to us both ways. It's like anytime something is corrupt, it like F's everything up.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like insane. It's so frustrating.
After you sit in that posting chair
Oh
for
my
like
gosh, for 5 hours.
right? And then
Like-
you've written out your caption, and then it says, "Oh, cannot upload," or like
Error, sorry.
yeah,
Or, like,
no,
it just
no
deletes everything.
audio, whatever. You
Yeah.
just yes,
Super
yes.
frustrating.
We want to throw our phones away
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but
Um,
yeah, so I think that's like a good comparison between the two and like the way that we work. And honestly, I don't know if I really like messing with things. That's why I think I'm on like the Windows Android systems. Like I like messing with things on the computer, and I don't know if I would prefer it on my phone, because even when I'm doing reels now and I have to like do micro refinements on the phone, I get really frustrated. So I like having that control.
Yeah, and I think it just depends on what you're working on.
Yeah.
You know, there are things I definitely feel like, oh, I can do really quickly on my phone. But there are definitely times where like, man, like it would be so much easier if I just export it out into Photoshop and do it
Right.
on my computer right now.
Yeah. But again, that's also like, it's really up to you and personal preference, because one, that's unnecessary. It is freaking Instagram. Like, you know, we're just
Yeah.
uploading on Instagram. Does not have to be perfect. Does not have to be, you know, this certain way. And then also it's just like personal preference. Like what you like to do, what floats your boat on the daily, and how you want to do things. Yeah.
And I think the most important thing here to kind of like just kind of walk away with and end this episode with is that find a way that works, that's most efficient for you.
Yeah.
Because if you sort of allow this part of the process to slow you down, then all the hard work that you have put in prior to getting to this step have just all been done for nothing.
Yeah.
And so, so I, you know, and so like, don't let this be the reason why you didn't share something that you spend so much hard work and time preparing,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. And again, you know, getting it done is better than getting it done perfect.
Exactly.
So just get it out there and then move on to your next thing.
And
you can always improve as you go.
Exactly. And like do it at your capacity. Whatever you're capable of doing right now, the most important thing at the end of the day, what Ann said, is creating the content. Right? So whether it could be a not so good phone, it could be a not so good phone camera, but there's a way to make it stylistic. There's a way to make it yours. And the most important thing really is just to put it out there into the world.
Okay, wait a minute. I just have to say this because when you say that, I keep thinking about Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious. Okay, any Fast fans
Ann is
out
a
there?
crazy Fast
please
fan.
Leave it in the comments. But okay, you remember? Oh gosh, what was it? It was when Brian first showed up in the scene. I can't remember which Fast. I think it was like Fast 4 or Fast 4 wasn't even called Fast 4. God, I'm not a fan because I can't even say what the fourth one was. But remember when Brian was like, "Oh, I almost had you," when they were doing their quarter mile race.
Yeah.
And then Dominic to the crowd was like, "We all know it doesn't matter, you know, what kind of car you're driving. Is really what matters is who's behind the wheel."
Right.
And I'm like,
right. Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. Of course you would bring it back to Fast.
Of course. I mean, that and also is like, yeah, you win. Doesn't matter by an inch or by a mile. Like,
Yeah.
you won. Anyways, okay.
Yeah.
So keep winning. Get out there. Do it. But also, if you like this podcast. Terrible at self-promotion.
Let me like explain this. I feel like it's important for you to know. Basically, before this
Oh my
this
gosh.
episode, we're constantly learning and like incorporating new things into our podcast
Yeah.
as we do, right? And Ann's like, you know, we need to plug the fact that you guys need to leave us a rating, because that helps not only just us, and like, yes, we love to have a 5-star rating from you, but also it shows up for other people so that, you know, they can find our podcast easier. And before this, Anne's like, don't forget to plug us, but like, and I was like, don't forget to do it naturally. And she's like, okay, like your voice changed entirely.
I'm like presentation mode. Please.
Yeah, as you can see, we're very bad at self-promotion and
God,
self-plugging.
it's terrible. Okay, this is the first time we've done it. So
Yeah.
episode 19 is
Yeah.
where we started doing
Right.
it. So like hopefully by episode 31, like we would have this down like a lot.
Yeah. And
You know?
I think it's important to leave this in here so that you know this is
We're
this is what
trying.
this
And
is what it is. Like when you're building something, there's a lot of learning involved. It's
There
totally
is.
okay.
Yes. So please, with that said, if you like our podcast, please leave a comment, share it, subscribe,
Yes.
give us a rating, because again, it really helps other people find our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we love to share it with more people. That's all.
Yes. So we'll get to you on tech episode number 2 next time, and we have so much more to tell you about.
I
so,
know. And
yeah.
talk about the video stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well,
Okay, awesome.
with that said, thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for tuning. We'll see you next time. Bye. I was like looking at the camera. I was
So
like,
natural. No, you're like, I'm officially going to plug. I love it. I cannot wait to see like the body language change, your voice change,
wait,
like
please leave it in.
everything. Yes.
Wait,
No,
that
it's
could be our
so
blueprint.
good. Yeah. That's so good. I'm like,
Oh my
I'm waiting for it.
God,
Okay,
like-
Anne's ready. You like took a little breath too before you started. It was great. It
Oh my
was
gosh, I'm dead.
perfect.
I am dead.
Absolutely perfect.
Okay.